This is Flowgorithm. Flowgorithm is used for creating flowcharts and testing to see if they work. I'm going to start off by splitting my workspace by clicking on this button here and choosing to show my console on the right hand side. By having the console on the right hand side, I'll be able to follow my progress through the flowchart. All flowcharts start with a main and an end. Main is the same as start, end is the same as stop. I'm going to double click on the arrow and I'm going to make a very simple program which outputs a variable. So I'm going to start with variables here and choose declare. A variable is simply used in a computer program to store information. The variable can be called anything, but it makes sense to call the variable something to do with what it's going to store. In this case, I'm going to ask it to store a message. So I'm going to double click on declare and call this variable message. This is like a label, if you like. My message is not going to be numbers, which are integers. My message is going to use strings. A string is a piece of text, so any letter from A to Z I can use. And I'm going to click on OK. So we know now the computer is going to allow us to store something in this variable called message. How do we get it there? We have to have some way of inputting it in. So I'm going to double click on this arrow here and choose input, and then double click on the word input and tell it, where is the input going to go? The input is going to go into the variable called message. So it doesn't matter what I type in, it's going to go into the variable called message because that's the one that we've set up. You can't ask it to store something in a variable which doesn't exist. Had we not have said string message, at this point here we wouldn't be able to input anything into message because it wouldn't exist. Click on OK. And when I run this program now, on the right hand side you will see it says please enter a value of type string for message. So I'll enter a value and my value is going to be good afternoon. That's my value. When I press enter, you can see here, it's going to store it in this variable called message. So I press enter and we can now see it says good afternoon because it has somewhere to store the message. The message could be anything. Now we don't have to call it message, we can call it anything. I could call this instead label and click on OK. But this wouldn't work because here I'm saying input message. When I run this, it will return an error. If I press play, before you can store or read data from a variable, it must first be declared. I haven't set up an area, a variable called message for the information to go into. I've called it label. If I change this and I call this label and click on OK, now it will work because it's saying whatever you type in will be stored under a heading called label. So I run this again and now I can type in good afternoon or good morning or any greeting, press enter, and sure enough it allows it to input it because it has somewhere to store it. That is the basic creation of a very simple flowchart using a variable.